Welcome to the And She Spoke podcast. Feeling overwhelmed? Maybe some burnout? Great, because today we spoke with Mridu Parikh, who is a productivity coach. She is also a speaker and the founder of Life is Organized. She has taught thousands of women simple ways to wake up with a plan, take control of their distractions, and drop overwhelm with ease. Results include a 300% increase in billable time, 10 hours a week saved on emails, multiple pant sizes shed through new routines. Anyone interested? That is what we're talking about today. We're talking about calendaring, we're talking about boundaries, we're talking about efficiency and productivity, all such good stuff. I am so happy to introduce you to Mridu Parikh.
Welcome, Mridu, to the podcast. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you. I can honestly say I have been looking forward to this all week. Just having thoughtful conversations with smart women is so exciting to me. So thanks for having me.
I love it. And in preparation, I just can hear all of our clients in the background, like, ask her this, ask her this, ask her this. So we've got lots prepared. But first, let's get to know you. Do you want to do a little 1-minute introduction of yourself and your business?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Mridu Parikh, founder of Life is Organized. I help basically women in business, be in control of all their demands and all their distractions. So I believe when you do this, you can create this ripple effect of impact across your work life, your home life, your family life, your personal life. You can truly get everything you want when you're really in control of your intention and your attention. So essentially that means I just help women wake up with a plan. Planning is definitely my jam. And my official title is productivity coach.
And how did you arrive here?
It's a journey.
Is there some recovering perfectionism involved?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I like to say I'm a recovering perfectionist, but really I am a perfectionist, but I'm just less of one than I used to be. And I think like everything in life, you just got to find the thing that you're like, I'm going to be totally in and give myself permission to be the perfectionist on this side. And I'm going to let go of the other thing. I don't think you can let go of it all. It's like, just figure out the one that you're like, this is what I'm going to hang my hat on. But
So,
yes. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no. So I'm so curious. What was your career path? How does someone become a productivity expert?
From a weird journey, right? So I used to be in corporate for 10 years in marketing and client services. Kind of the story of the burnout, working all the hours. And I was in New York City, never saw my baby who was 2 years old, never saw him. I thought the nanny was bringing him up. And when my husband got an opportunity to get a job down in Nashville, I was like, heck no, I'm not leaving New York. This is my dream. This is my life. And he said the few words that just made it all happen. And he said, well, if you go, you won't have to work. And I thought, oh, I hit the lottery. It's a dream. Sign me up. So we go. And lo and behold, of course, within 6 months, I'm losing my mind. I have no friends, no family, a 2-year-old. I'm pregnant again. I'm like, I don't like this whole thing. So flash forward, I started on this entrepreneurial journey just because I'm like, I don't want to go back to corporate. Let me figure out something I'm good at. Started a series of different businesses, a party planning, video organizing, and kind of fell more into the home organizing side, which I love doing, kind of tapped into my own gifts, if you will.
Actual physical, organizing closets and mudrooms and stuff like that. Worst nightmare ever. Okay.
No, but hold on. You're in Nashville, where the home edit ladies are from too, right? Okay. Yeah. So that's like what I think of when I think of Nashville. I don't think of country music anymore. I just think of the home edit.
That's so funny. They are lovely. I've had opportunities to meet Joanna. She's wonderful, but I started way back when there was no Container Store. There was right. And in fact, I remember thinking, as I'm organizing my drawers, I was obsessed. I love it. It's like everyone's nightmare is somebody else's dream, right? It was my dream. I was like, God, I wish I had someone just pay me to do this for them. And then I saw it on HGTV. I saw some segment and there was a professional organizer. I'm like, what? There's a thing like this? So anyway, I found out there was a national organization. I got into it, but quickly realized that I did not like doing it for other people because I'm a perfectionist or whatever the thing is. I just like doing it for myself. So what I moved was, but I still loved the strategy. I love the teaching and the coaching. I think that's really where my gifts lie. So I moved to online DIY courses and training on home organization. did that for several years, and then was kind of getting burnt out on that, fell out of love with it for several reasons. Some of my, like, to my target, just what I was doing. And during that time, I was like, oh, do I go back to work? What do I do? I can't figure this out. And I'm feeling really overwhelmed and getting burnt out on this. And I sort of just plunged into productivity because I felt like that's what was missing in my life. Like I just couldn't keep track of everything with the kids and everything with work and everything with travel. And as I moved into that personally, it then launched into what I could do professionally. I really do believe you teach what you're meant to learn, or was it you're meant to learn what you're going to teach, however you say that, but I really believe that. And so now it's great because I can take that home organization background and couple it with the productivity. And it's just like this really synergistic, awesome service offer, specialty with clients, especially with women, because we are doing it all. There is no like work-life separation. It is all integrated. I don't care what anybody says, right? That like that balance is just, it's a kind of a myth. I mean, we're balancing it, but it's all together. So that's how I got here now.
Mm-hmm. So who is your typical client?
So typically small business owners, women, I say they're doing all the things for all the people all the time, right? And so they're juggling it all. And I think for many people, 2020 and the pandemic taught us that life is totally integrated. But if you're a small business owner, you've always known that, right? You didn't need 2020 to show you that. You've known, like, I'm juggling cooking and laundry and kids and running around and building a business, growing my team, doing all the things. So that's typically who they are. They're feeling overwhelmed because they're trying to figure out, how do I systemize this? How do I create a routine and a structure at home or possibly at a workspace? How do I systemize everything going on in the household so that I have the energy and can show up for my clients the best way? And so we work a lot on delegating and systemizing and prioritizing.
Mm-hmm. If I hired you, I'd be like, I don't like planning. I don't like systems. I just want to do what I want to do in the moment.
Yeah. So here's what I got to say to you. If you're feeling frenetic, if you're feeling scattered, if you're feeling overwhelmed, then if you continue to operate that way, you will continue to feel that way. If you're not feeling all those things, great, more power to you. Like, keep doing what you're doing. But if you're feeling overwhelmed, then there's a good chance that style, even though you're resistant to maybe getting a little more structure or more planning, it's just not working. We all know we can't do the same things and expect different results. So I don't believe your life has to be like 24/7 structured out every minute of the day on the calendar. Like, that's not what this is about. But if we can give you some, let's say you or anyone else, a little bit more routine or structure planning, so that you've created more time, you've created more freedom for yourself, then you'll actually get more done, be less tired, be more present, all the things that we all want so badly.
I totally agree. So Sandy is kind of an anomaly in this world. Like, she's not as much of a perfectionist as most other people who are high achievers are very successful. And so I totally get what you're saying. And there's nothing that brings me more joy than like a bunch of color-coded pens and like 3 planners and all my Trello boards. And it's like actually pure bliss for me to organize and figure out how to squeeze insight and time out of my day. But I'm wondering, for people who don't have that love, who are like Sandy, what is like the first assignment you give someone? So like, I want to know for me too, but I'm going to be generous and ask for Sandy. Like, what's like, so say we hired you to come in and help us be more productive. What is the first thing you would have us do?
So typically I go through a 4-pillar strategy, I guess, say a strategy, right? And it has 4 steps. Let's say they're steps. So the very first thing would be to get very clear on your goals. This is probably the first step in anything we're doing, right? In business, at home, we're like, what do I really want? What am I trying to get? If you are feeling, again, overwhelmed, overstretched, overtired, what is it you're looking for? Sometimes it's not always like more time. It could be time, but sometimes it's more space. I'm looking to offload more things. I'm looking for more connection with my family. I need better relationships. I want better systems. Like, everybody's goals are so different, even though it seems like we're the same. We just, we want to feel better, but they're really specific. So we would start there. Then let's say we kind of reverse engineer and say, okay, if that's the goal, how do we start creating that on the second thing, which is your calendar? Like, look at your time and calendar. And I get really tactical here because it's like, I believe if you don't see it on the calendar, it's really hard to make it come to life.
Yeah.
Because we can see it in our head a million times over, but why doesn't it translate into real life? Because it's like, we just can't, there's like this big gap between what we're thinking and what's like actual in reality. So we dive deep into the calendar, really day by day, figure out what works. And there's a lot that goes into this in terms of like theming and, really thinking through your energy levels. Well, that's one thing we do. And then third, here's a kicker. We would then create some systems and processes, because you could do the first things really well. You'd be like, I got my goals. I know exactly what I want to do. I got it on my calendar. Great. You all know if we don't get a system around it, it lasts for like a day, right? Or 2 days, and it just falls by the wayside. And then you feel like a failure, said nothing works for me. That's not true. We just didn't have probably the right process behind it. So we want to get that in place. And again, that's everything from meal planning to my invoicing, to sales calls, to there's a system behind everything. And then the fourth component is communication and leadership, which is essentially creating boundaries, like around your time, other people's time, how you communicate it. It's not always quite as linear as I just laid it out, right? Because it's not life. But at some point through that process, we're going to start with goals no matter what, but we're going to hit through these because it brings it all together. There's not a one thing that's going to just like, change everything. But there are some simple steps you can take to kind of bring it together.
And what is your relationship to habits? Like, is that when you say system, is that what some people would call habits, or is it different in your mind?
Yes, I think it's a great way to look at it, because I do think, well, for everyone, there are different trigger words. For some people, a system is a trigger word. You're like, I can't take a system. And for someone else, a habit might be a trigger word, right? But you're absolutely right. We could just use those interchangeably.
Okay.
Essentially doing something over and over, right? Till it becomes kind of part of your life, or kind of part of your lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. I have to say that I use my calendar like religiously. Like everything in my head is sort of pinned on my calendar, so I know what's happening, and then it's out of my mind, and then it's like not this like busy mind, like, oh, I have to remember to do this. And what happens is when you have all of that, all your things you're going to do on the calendar, when you have time off, the evening or a Saturday or whatever, it's like I can take that freely and comfortably and not be like, because I know that when I go to work on whatever, if I do some hours on Sunday night or Monday, whatever, it's like, I got it. Like it's there. I don't have to constantly think about it. And when I started doing that, that was like the most freeing feeling, is that like mentally I could truly relax because I know my calendar is holding it all for me.
I love that. I cannot. And so many things about that I love. I love one that you found a system that works for you, because you got to kind of customize it. You could try 10 different things, and then finally the 11th one is the one you're like, this one works really for me. So I love that. Two, I totally agree with everything you're saying. There's so much freedom in knowing that I have a time to do whatever it is I need to do, so that you can give yourself a mental break. So you can give yourself that physical break. Often when we fall into reactivity, right, during the day, let's say you're typing an email and the text comes in, another email pops up, and we start responding to that and looking at that and beeping on this. It's often not always because it's most usually never urgent, but a lot of the reason is because we're just worried we're going to forget about it. I'm not going to have time to do it later. I'll just take care of it now. And by doing what you did, like actually writing that on your calendar, here's what I've got to do. Now you're like, oh, I don't have to worry about it. The thought came to my head. I'll jump over to my calendar. I'll put it in. I got time for it later. I can get back to what I'm working on. So it actually ends up being this amazing distraction avoidance technique without even knowing it. Right. And plus, you're right. And then you have that mental capacity to stay focused on what I'm doing. I could take care of that later.
So I'm curious about your opinion on tools like Slack, because I get asked by team members that work in our company how we manage to stay on top of things. And I don't know if you use Slack in your business or you have clients that do. Like, what are the best practices for bringing this kind of productivity ethos into Slack without kind of always being working and being on the job?
Yeah, I do use Slack. I love it. I actually now, even for my group coaching courses, I don't do Facebook anymore. We've moved everything to Slack. I think maybe y'all are doing that too, but because Facebook just got so distracting. I would go in there to answer a question and all the things happen. So I love Slack. I think it's great. I think but at the end of the day, it's a tool is a tool. It's how we use it.
Yeah.
And in terms of best practices, I think it kind of comes down more to communication, like that fourth pillar, leadership.
Boundaries.
Yeah. And how you communicate with your team. If the team, if the expectations are, whether I'm in Slack or Facebook or text, whatever it is, I'm available 24/7 I'm going to respond within 1 minute. That's going to be the expectation, right? It doesn't matter what the tool is. If the expectation with your team is, hey, I'll check every once an hour, if it's more, or once or 2 hours, or twice a day, whatever your boundary is. If it's truly urgent, here's another way to get in touch with me when it's urgent. Maybe it is the phone call. Maybe it is a text, So I think it comes down to it's not so much the tool, although I do love Slack for many reasons. It's efficient, it's quick, it's not as distracting, but it's going to come down to what you decide and the boundaries that you create with your colleagues or team members or clients.
Mm-hmm. It's a good question, Jenny, about Slack. And I think one of the other things that we've implemented, and I guess you could sort of see it as a boundary, is that because when you're on Slack and your team has access to you 24/7, right? And so to say, like, these are the windows I'm going to, respond, but also we have requested that our team, if they have a question, that they answer it. Like, so let's say they have a problem, and we call these communication filters. So they have to say, here's the problem, here's my solution. Do you agree or disagree, or what's your input? So then we can just be like, yes, go. And then you don't have to like have a back and forth conversation with them. And it just cuts down it cuts some time, because they here's my question, here's my answer, yes or no. Here's the problem, here's the solution, yes or no. And if it's wrong, then you can have a deeper conversation, but you can just basically give it a, yeah, go for it, or thumbs down, and here's why. And so it's just that to me, that boundary has been huge for our team.
Sandy, that is such a great and amazing growth tool too for your team, right? Now you're like, the expectation is you got to work this out on your own.
Yeah.
At least, it makes everyone go that next level, and it makes them so much more autonomous. And I feel like when anyone, whether it's a family member or a team member, when they're more part of that solution or part of that creation, they're more vested in the outcome. So that's brilliant.
Yeah, it works really well. Okay, inbox zero. Jenny, I know you're thinking about this, right? Thoughts on inbox zero?
Don't call me out on this on the podcast, Sandy, honestly.
No, I'm just saying you were thinking about it and you wanted her opinion. We're not discussing I
think I already know her opinion, but let's hear it.
I'd be surprised, because I'm not an inbox zero person. I'm not. I don't have hundreds, but I'll try to keep it to like
hundreds, Jenny. Hundreds.
Like under 20, under 10. It's very manageable, but I don't have
zero. That's basically zero in Jenny's world.
Yeah, but I don't have, but it's not
31,917.
Oh, wait a second. Now, is that unread, or is that
unread is 1,674?
Okay. So I actually have this another thing. Everyone's shocked. I probably have 50,000, and I'm not kidding, probably 50,000, 90,000. I don't even know how many thousands of emails in my archive. I just archive. I'm still nervous to get rid of things, but it's not in my inbox, which is very different. Right. And so
it's in my inbox.
Okay, I'm just saying that people think, oh my gosh, must be like zero inbox. I have no emails. No, I have like bazillion.
Yeah. It's hard to get rid of it. You might need it. I reference like 2-year-old emails all the time.
Yeah.
So I have a whole theory about it, but yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of archiving. You can, if you're on Gmail, you can just archive, so that your eyes just stay focused on what needs to be done, what hasn't been read. I think because if you clutter it all up with everything you've already read, already processed, it's just one more step. It's one more thing, first of all, to get you distracted. But then you're like, did I respond to that? Did I not respond to that? All that starts happening. So I just try to get it out of my inbox.
Yeah. And not to use it as a to-do list, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I don't use my inbox as a to-do list at all. Yeah. That's why I have multiple paper planners with color-coded pens.
Very nice.
See, but it's like what works for each of us, right? Like you got to let your productivity flag fly however it flies.
I agree. It is very customized. It's very personalized. I will always have like, here's what works for me and here's what I recommend, but ultimately you've got to try it, test it, tweak it, and you'll find something that works best for you, so.
Okay. So I have a question for you about kind of like you work with, I imagine, a lot of successful people, and in particular, I have found with myself and with other high achieving women, there is, for me, the hardest part of all of this productivity stuff is like, I could be like uber productive basically all the time and happy, but then I sacrifice my relationships and I sacrifice my like time parenting. And so the hardest thing for me is actually being able to have the boundary to not let my productivity and my business kind of creep into the rest of my life. And I'm wondering, like you say, that's the fourth stage or the fourth step that you teach. And what are some tips for those of us that really struggle in that area? Like, what can I do to make that easier?
First of all, I want to say thank you so much for saying that you enjoy working and don't have this, I feel like there's so many women, we feel like we have to be so guilty because we really love work and we should be more with the kids. And I'm like, it's so great just to own it and be like, I love it. I could spend 24/7 on it and that's just all fine. But to answer your question, I say, let's go back through those other steps, right? The goal and being more intentional, getting on your calendar and almost systemizing it. So if the goal is, I really want to spend more time with my family, be more present, that's the goal. That's great. So we got that down. Mm-hmm. I would say you've got to put on that calendar just like you would anything else, like a work meeting, Zoom meetings, this podcast, right? So what would that be? I don't know. And here's the thing, we don't have to get wrapped up in quantity. It doesn't have to be 3 hours a day. It could be 30 minutes reading a book at night or helping with homework. It's really the quality, right? Or sitting at the dinner table with no electronics. So if we were to actually put that on your calendar, what do you think would work?
So I do that. And I do find it works. And, so the only way I found though, to keep other things from creeping in are to actually like have zero electronic connections in any physical space near me. And I would like to not have to like remove my watch in order to be with my child. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, is that just like a mind? Sandy's going to be like, oh, we're coaching. What was I saying? Oh, I would love to not have to remove technology from my physical space in order to be fully present to other human beings.
Okay. So I just did my podcast, it's coming out next week. The episode I just recorded yesterday was on how do we reducing willpower? Because I think willpower is so hard to use all the time, right? And from the moment we wake up to we go to bed, we have to use some type of willpower on what we're eating or what we're saying to the kids or what we're doing with our clients. By the end of the day, especially it's gone, right? You have very little left. So what I think is if you can be disciplined about your environment, you get to be less disciplined about yourself, which means if you're disciplined about your environment, you get to use less willpower. And isn't that lovely? So I would say, get rid of that watch if that's really what the goal, right? For that time. If you're worried, yes, but we truly do have emergencies, then put on the do not disturb with the, there's something that says accept calls from, and then put that person. So if it's like your mom, right? Emergency mom, daughter, whatever it is, school, client, you can add all these people and like, here's the top 5 people I have to get messages from. So I'm going to get the notification, I'll call everybody else. They're just being held up in the cloud somewhere until I swipe on do not disturb again. So that way, what I'm trying to say is now you're basically disciplining the environment. So you don't have to exert all the discipline on yourself. That's exhausting. Yeah. That's so hard to do.
So good. That is so good. That's a real tip. Like this is a professional tip right here, because here's the thing. And, we can talk in circles about it all we want, but the truth is that we have a company where there are real emergencies. And I think having gone through the trauma of some of those emergencies and recognizing that like things do happen and break in the middle of the night, or someone needs something from that I have to contribute to, there's this sense of I can never actually get away from it, because what if that is that real emergency? So if I'm sitting down to read my daughter a bedtime story, and there is there's this 0.01% chance there's a real emergency, but there's this like sense of responsibility to that, right? That makes it so like I do not feel fully present ever. So that's a great tip, because then I can say Sandy's allowed to call me. Yeah. And I know she won't do that unless there's really an emergency, right? So then it gets through. So that's awesome. I love
Except
that
that
tip.
Sandy has all notifications turned off all the time.
So
she won't even
it's
know
not
there's
only
an
Sandy. I'll
emergency.
let like the 3 other people on our team who might call me in an emergency on there. But like that's such a helpful, actual, real tip, because I think so often we're like, we hear, oh, have boundaries, but there's more nuance and context to that, right? Like not everyone can say like, peace out for the weekend, you can't reach me. Like that doesn't feel responsible for the role that I have. So thank you for that. That's super helpful.
No problem. And then on that note, not for you, it sounds like you're doing this, but for anyone listening, then you might say to your team, hey, only contact me in the evening if it's an emergency. Otherwise, don't contact me until 5 o'clock, 5, and so what you kind of created there is a little system, right? Your system is, I'm going to put on my calendar. When I'm ready to, cut off from the day, I'm going to go to my do not disturb and put that on, put in my people, and then sit with my family. So system is a 3-step. It's really easy, but it's like that little thing could now create that consistency, the habit, the system, whatever you want to call it, like that, evenings with your daughter.
That's awesome.
Let's talk about burnout. I see this conversation in our community, and what I see happening is that they're women and they have like the second shift. They have lots of responsibility with, sometimes it's a full-time job or part-time job, plus trying to build a business, plus often a family. And they are cautious because they don't want to burn out. They're cautious because they don't want to, have negative health effects. And so I think a lot of them have burnt out before and become quite ill. And so they're very careful how they tread, or how they move forward into this new business opportunity that they're with us, that we're coaching on. I would just love your thoughts about, burnout, warning signs, what to do, how to handle it. Or personal experience if you're willing to share.
Yeah, for sure. So gosh, women, we're
I know, what's wrong with us?
Well, we're just like these natural caretakers. I think it's innate, right? It's like sociologically, it's just who we are. And then we're ambitious and we want to do everything. And so I'm really glad to hear. And I do think the conversation has really elevated in the last year with COVID. Unfortunately, probably took that, but that there is so much conversation about it, which is great, because I think it is closer to where it needs to be, that we should all be thinking about this. So I want to start there. That's wonderful. I am like you, Sandy. I have to have everything out of my head, or I shut down. I get very paralyzed, especially when you're in chaos or feeling like all the things are happening. That's the last time that you can think clearly. Like, I feel like it's hard to grab the tools and the tips you need when you're in the middle of all the crazy. So I have to write this down. This sounds so elementary and basic, but I have this list of like things I should be doing when I'm freaking out, or like self-care things, and they're really simple. It's like, put on, I do meditate. I wouldn't even say I'm a meditator, but I'll put on like a 2-minute meditation app, or I put on my favorite music in the house while I'm, and dance around while I'm making dinner. Or I will just be like, I'm going for a 5-minute walk. I'll just walk to the block and back, not even around the block, like down the street and back. Or I'm like, I just need 5 minutes. I'm going to go sit in my room. Like, I have this list. It's so weird. I use Evernote, and it's like, because I can't even think of what I need to do in that moment, because I'm so stressed out and I have to look at something. So I really recommend doing that. It's so simple and easy. And it sounds, again, like rudimentary, but keep your little like list around somewhere that, probably on your phone is the safest, because that's where we always have our phone with us. Be like, I don't even know what to do right now. Oh wait, I know exactly what to do. I need to go I need to drink like a gallon of water right now. I need to go, call up my girlfriend. I need to like walk out of the house and things like that. So I would just start with something really simple like that, because in the moment you can't think. Second, going back to what I was saying with Jenny, even spending time with the family, spending time on work, we've got to block that time for ourselves. I feel like I say this and it goes one ear and out the other, and one ear and out the other. No, really actually put it on the calendar, really. And this does not have to be going to get a massage. I feel like this whole bubble bath thing, I've never taken a bubble bath, but it could be like veg out in front of the TV at night. Like, it can be absolutely mindless. But by simply putting it on the calendar, or it just gives you that permission. It just gives you like that, hey, it's okay, I've already planned to do this. It could be a yoga class, it could be something else, but it could just be like, I just need to do nothing and sit here. So okay, I tell you one, a little story, I guess not a story, but something that happened with a client recently. We have coaching calls on Mondays, and she was saying, oh my God, I felt like I had just the worst weekend. I just sat on the couch like a slug, like all Saturday. I was going to do all these things, had all this stuff on my list, and I got nothing done. And then I feel terrible. And then so I woke up feeling bad Sunday and the whole thing. I'm like, okay. So let's say now I was talking to her and I'm like, let's say if you had put on your calendar rest day. Let's just say you had put just done the same thing, just said rest day. And you woke up in the morning and you did nothing. You sat in the slug, on the couch. You sat there like a slug. How would you feel on Saturday night? And she was like, I would have felt fine. Mm-hmm. And like on Sunday morning, I would have felt fine. And it wasn't that the outcome was any different. She just sat there. It's simply because she put the intention forward and put on the calendar that it was like, oh yeah, this is my rest day, versus thinking in my head, I'm going to do 1,000 things, not doing it and then feeling like a failure. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I think it's such a small little thing, but it can be so powerful to put that 30 minutes, 1 day, 1 hour, 5 minute, whatever, put it on the calendar, because it starts just like registering, my intention to like the reality. Mm-hmm. Does that help?
Yeah. And I would also say, like, so by doing that act that you just described, you start to think about it different, and then you feel different about it. But also to watch when you do have those days, like, women need to know that they can take rest without guilt. Like, there is nothing wrong if you rest. There's no failure. You are not lazy. Like, there's all these judgments from society that come upon us when we stop working. And I think that conversation is really important too, that it's okay to sit on the couch for Saturday and watch Netflix. There's nothing wrong with you, right? Like, it's totally okay. And we have to really start to give ourselves permission and encouragement and like a lot of positive self-talk for those rest days, because that's when the creativity starts to creep in, right? Like, that's when you get all these ideas. As soon as you stop pushing, there's so many really cool ideas that sort of like pop up into the mind because you're so much more open.
Yeah, the self-talk is so huge. Like, I also said to that client, I was like, I would have loved to have heard you say, like, just flipped it and said, I had the best day on Saturday. I just sat on the TV. That's instead right. of I had the worst day, right? It's just that self-talk. And you're right. And then once it's like, I had the best day doing that, then you give yourself permission. And truly, we're a lot of working women, a lot of them are moms. And like, we want to be a role model to our children. We don't want to be on 24/7, always taking care of everyone else's needs before our needs, being too tired or too exhausted or snarky. Like, I get so snarky when I'm I'm just tired.
And I'm never snarky.
And it's like, that's not how you want to show up. That's not what we're teaching them. That's not what we're working so hard for. So it's also like, what are we bringing? They learn from us, like what they're seeing. What are we bringing to that next generation?
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Jenny?
Yeah, I just was thinking there's nothing that really makes me feel happier than seeing my daughter kind of lazing about with a book, with her like feet up on the chair and just kind of totally, fully relaxed and not feeling the need to do anything. And so that's so helpful to think about it like that. Like, if she saw me laying down on the ground with my feet up on like the lounge chair with a book, like what would she feel like, right? Like that, I would love for her to feel that joy and to see that as something that's acceptable and encouraged. And I try to encourage her, but not by doing it in front of her. So anyway, this is such a helpful thing to think about, because of course we deserve rest. And of course that's healthy and wonderful. And we should be role modeling that when we can.
I love that. That's a beautiful. I was like the image in my head when you were saying that, creating that. It is beautiful. Yeah. And it's what we're teaching them. So.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do you want to move into joy?
Let's do it. So, Mridu, we ask every guest to share with us something that's bringing them joy in their life right now, and a tool that can help our listeners hustle in their career or business.
Okay, so I was asking before we went on, I'm like, can it be something I'm eating? Because I'm right now obsessed with, and it's not even a new thing. I have just discovered it. But the Trader Joe's mini hold the cone. I'm reading this ice cream cones. Have you seen these mini cones?
No.
I almost was going to bring one, but I was like, but it will melt here. They are unbelievable. So they're like talk about productivity, the most efficient thing you've ever eaten, but the taste so good because there's this, but it's an actual cone. Like you go to an ice cream store,
yeah,
you get a cone, but they're only this big and has one little scoop on it. So it's perfect because I need something sweet every night because that's just who I am. But you don't feel guilty because I don't remember, it's not a lot of calories and not a lot of fat because it's small, but it's just, they have vanilla and chocolate, everything. So it's just enough to like get you the urge, you get satisfied, you get it, but you don't feel terrible about it. I love him. So my whole family now is obsessed with them. So we have all the time. Yeah.
This is very hard for me to hear because I live on a remote island that does not have easy access to places like Trader Joe's. And so it's like every time, like I try not to read those blog posts where people like show their Trader Joe's haul or anything like that. Because I'm like, oh, how convenient for you. How lovely for you. But
I live in Canada. We don't have Trader Joe. So neither of us can go
to. But our listeners will be able to get it.
Yeah, everyone else will be like going.
The regular people will be able to get it.
I just assumed it's in Canada. They don't have Trader Joe's. But this is so obnoxiously American of us to be thinking. Oh,
we just got Whole Foods just a couple of years ago. Like we don't even have a Whole Foods in Calgary right now.
Do you have a Costco?
Costco, yes.
Okay, my dad swears these are the same thing as our Costco. I have never seen my Costco, but he says they have the mini cones there. But they're in New Jersey, so this is different.
There you go, Sandy. You can go to your Costco and get the little ice cream cones.
Not pay me enough money to go into a Costco, like 100%. That is like I've been, I think, twice in my life, and I will never go again. So I'll find another solution. I will find another solution.
I'm sure they have little bites anywhere. I'm sure they're in Whole Foods, in the grocery store. I just happened to discover them at Trader Joe's. I just love them, and now I'm obsessed. So they do bring me joy. It brings me joy. I don't eat
sounds delicious and wonderful.
They are. And my tool. So I mentioned it, and it's not a new one either, but this is what organizes my entire life. Like everything at home, everything in travel, everything at work, everything. And that's Evernote. Yeah. Not a new one again, but I've been using Evernote. I think I just passed my 10-year anniversary. I teach it to all my clients. Again, I don't think it's the tool, the be all. I say work whatever, use whatever works for you, but it's something I know well and I love. And everything from like my kids' school stuff to meal planning to travel is on there. And so
I think it's so funny that you said that because I was thinking about Evernote last night and how I use it all the time and I never talk about it. And then they just started adding tasks. That's a new feature, right? Have you seen? But I haven't, like, I think it just happened. I just got the notification, so I haven't looked at it. But what I love about Evernote is that, like, when I do the mindset calls, I usually prepare like one of our coaching calls and I like have a folder, like a book. What do they call it? A notebook.
Yeah.
And it's like pages of all the things and I can search it. And it's like my little secret brain place, my brain dump, but it's very organized. And all the podcast intros that I write and record, they're all written within Evernote. And I don't know why, because I was thinking you could do all of that within Google and a folder, but it just isn't as nice. Like it just doesn't, it's not nice.
It isn't as something, it's not as organized or it takes too much work in the Google. I don't know. With the way that Evernote works for whatever, just the way they have it, it is just a list making tool. So, but I mean, then I use it for everything and I still I'm on the free version for 10 years and I can still use it for everything. So I'm dragging in why
do I pay for
I'll drag in like our medical stuff. I'll drag in photos of some, I mean, it's just like a drag and drop. And so it's so easy to put everything in there. I used to, and I'll leave on this one thing. I used to at some point, take a lot of notes, like handwritten notes. And I still do handwritten notes. And then they have this, God, what's it called? Whatever their scanner, whatever their
yeah, that little scanner they sell. I do have that scanner.
You bought that.
It's just on your app. It's just on your phone. It's called Scannable. And so I just take pictures of anything I write. I just click. And then right from the app, it goes put into whatever folder in Evernote. And so now it is just collected everything I own, like all my paperwork, all my receipts.
Yeah. It's been smart.
And have you ever used the presentation part of it?
I haven't. No.
It's awesome. So if any of your clients need to put a really quick and this might be in the paid version, that's maybe why I paid for it, but you can do like notes, like write your things, and then you just switch to presentation and it turns into a slideshow, and you can just like mark where this is the slide, this is the slide, this is like this, these words are this slide, these words are this slide. And do you remember we learned it from Kim Luna? Do you remember? And and then you have like the little cursor and it's like you can make it pink or
it makes a nice little slide. And it's really simple, not like a keynote or a PowerPoint.
It's white with black text.
I love that.
I've used it a few times when you do something really fast and like note, turn into a presentation. So we just taught the productivity coach.
That's right. That's right. I may just go to the paid version.
I think it's paid though. I think it's on.
Yeah, I mean, just totally fine. But it was just funny that I can organize. I just tell people, you can use the basics and organize everything.
Yeah.
No,
don't have to get.
It is a great little tool. It's like my brain is in here too, so I love it.
Yeah, it is my brain. That is my.
All right, where can people find more about you? Where should they follow you?
Come on over to Life is Organized. That's where you can find all the things, and also my podcast. My podcast is Productivity on Purpose. So I figure for one podcast listeners, or when I go to another place,
absolutely,
some great tips there every week. And then lastly, if you want to there's a download I have called 21 Killer Hacks to Stop Feeling Overwhelmed. And that's at lifeisorganized.com/hacks, HACKS.
Awesome. Sounds good.
This was so much fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
for
so
spending
much.
time with us.
Thank you.